right, we are back with the grand finals coming up between Zan and Playa for Midwest Cup number 4. They're currently going through the map picks right now. It's going to be a best of 5 to start things off here. If Zan takes this best of 5, he ends... Nope, actually. If Zan takes the best of 5, he will have to take a best of 3. I think I said it wrong before we went to break, but if Playa takes the first best of 5, he is the grand champion. He is number 1. No contest. If Zan takes the first best of 5, we will be going to a best of 3 as it is a double elimination bracket, and so you don't want to... We might do best of 7s next time. I don't really know. Just like one best of 7. Not really sure.
One best of 7.
I've seen other tournaments do that.
Well, and
always...
do a what do you call it?
No
Not an
extended
extended series.
That's no fun for anyone. Well, except for the person who benefits.
Right, except the losers bracket.
Yeah. So so we will probably So if Zan takes that first best of 5, he will have to win a best of 3 after that to actually secure himself first place, as he is coming from the losers bracket. So what have we got for our maps? We've got Overgrowth, we've got Vani Research Station, we've got ourselves
the Secret Spring.
And then
either Catalina
yeah.
or Expedition Lost.
Zan is taking a quick break, which is quite all right. Silence. Zan, just like the rest of us, does need water. It's an important part of life.
Turns out he is in fact human. He is Terran after all, right?
Very true. Playa doesn't need no breaks, though. He just lives off of... He just needs the sun, right? Or something? Is that what Protoss survive off of?
I don't know. Magical crystals, I think.
They essentially photosynthesize. But yeah, I guess so. Jackson.
Yes.
What would you like? What would you like to see? I mean, what sort of like adaptations do you think we might see out of these players? Because both of these, I mean, they met in the winter final or semi, whatever. They met in the winners final, and Playa was able to take Zan 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
They were pretty close games though. Neither of them. It was never a stomp. You know, there was a lot of back and forth, and one, you know, at some point somebody edges out the victory. But you know, what do you think we adapt to? What do we change for either of these players?
Well, I think the first thing I'd like to see is either more or less commitment from Playa's early aggression. He kind of would just make a gateway, see what he could do, slow down Zan, but never seemingly able to really do much except for keeping a Reaper outside of his main base. So I'd like to either see him just go for it, you know, maybe a Proxy 2 gate, let's go, or like a Proxy Stargate, or just kind of stick with his macro style, be comfortable in the fact that he's playing an equally skilled player and not kind of trip himself up. And then most importantly, he's going to have to work on the drop play. That is what won or kept Zan in the game in most situations, was him just kind of dropping all over the place, pulling Zan apart, never really allowing Zan to get to that nice big 2 or 3 base army. And then by the time, never allow Playa to. And by the time Playa was able to actually get said army, Zan had already equalized his army. He had a low Viking count in most games. But it kind of was okay with how weak, at least at the big Colossi Archon count, Playa was.
Yeah, it was kind of a thing that happened throughout, was just that losing. Yeah, he managed to lose medevacs pretty often due to Playa's choice of those Phoenixes, and so yeah, he got to a point where, okay, do I make Phoenix? Do I make, or not? Do I make Vikings? Do I make medevacs? I need both, but I can't quite get them both out at the same time very well, you know. So
Sure.
yeah, I hear you there.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I think part of it would be production, you know, having a second reactor starport, pumping out 4 Vikings at a time really kind of gets that number up very high, very fast. But at the same time, he was keeping the Colossi count pretty low.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the biggest problem. However, I believe in the 3rd game was on Vani, right? If I remember.
Yeah, it was.
I think I remember seeing like 7 or so Colossi at the end of the game, which even though Zahn had taken tons and tons of damage before that, that's a pretty unbelievable Colossi count to have. I think 0 Vikings.
That roasts through the infantry very fast.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that really needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, I'm almost curious about seeing like Zan be really so like Playa's style. He defends with like he has just barely enough at the beginning of the game is what it seems to do. He seems to be very greedy and he wants to expand a lot and just barely be able to defend because that way he's got 75 probes when Zan's got 45 or so.
Or 104.
Well, yeah, I mean, as we continue on in the game. But like, let's say Zan went for like just 3 CCs real quick or something like that. Do you think? I mean, Playa does have. I think that's what the Dark Templar is there for, to try and stop something super greedy. But like, let's say Zan says, "All right, I know he goes DD almost every single game. He doesn't always use them a whole lot, but he definitely knows how and when to make use of them." Let's say Zan just takes 3 bases pretty quick and make sure to kind of defend them properly and maybe not try and drop quite as much. I mean, maybe it'd work out. I'm not really sure though.
Sure.
Or there's we're gonna 1 base all in or something. I don't know. And try and take advantage of the fact that Playa does just barely defend with just enough as at the beginning of the game. But as it is, we are loaded up into Overgrowth. The first map of this best of 5 series between Zan and Playa. Up in the top left, and by left I mean right, we have our pink Terran from Team Ascension. He is Zan.
And spotting him at the bottom left, advancing through the winners finals, looking to take the best of 5 for riches and glory. We have the red Protoss Playa. So we really haven't seen Overgrowth. We saw it just about every series for the first 4 or 5 rounds of the tournament, and since then we haven't seen it at all. We've seen a lot more newer maps, and I think that's rather curious.
Yeah, that is, because a lot of people just say, let's play on the same, let's make sure to not do anything on the new maps, because those are a little bit uncomfortable. Is it maybe because there are so many new maps?
Yeah, I mean, that could be a factor, certainly. I mean, and I would say that there are some that are pretty good for all races. So, I mean, there's certainly some to pick from the new maps, and maybe, if you want to make your opponent right, or maybe you have some specific strategies for that map, or, you want to force them out of their comfortable element, right? I mean, certainly that might play a part of it, but...
Yeah, maybe
because these two have probably played hundreds of games on this map.
Yeah, certainly. And maybe it's just, aside from maybe Secret Spring, a lot of the maps just don't have any huge glaring weaknesses. Or not weaknesses, but like exploitable features. Right. Secret Spring is, I think that is a... people keep playing it though. I don't know. It seems like a terrible map, but... yeah, it's just me.
Yeah. No, and Playa typically is opting for some of the older maps, or some of the maps with a little bit easier thirds to take. Is able to pick off nice. The SCV. That's, to me, the most successful he's been with his proxy gateway, but we sort of talked back and forth. I'm sure we'll get some pro opinions on that later on.
Wait.
We'll consult the experts and we'll say, hey, why does he keep making the proxy gateway 2 SCVs?
Stops the bunker.
Yeah.
But I'm just so uncertain about this. I mean, like, so Sam, what's your thoughts on this? You are the Protoss expert here. He's not being too aggressive. He gets pretty much a single Zealot. I think I saw him go for a Stalker, maybe one more Zealot afterwards. He gets a few SCV kills, but Is that really worth kind of sacking a whole gateway? Maybe he gets the stalker out in time.
Yeah, I mean, it does. So it forces him to build this bunker, right? Instead of building something else there. It keeps the Reaper at home, or he does more damage. He still gets his Zealot and Stalker opening out. He does get to scout, right? He gets to confirm, and he gets to deny, any sort of really cheesy play, right? So, say you try to rush tech, or you go CC first, then that proxy gateway is super scary, right? If you go CC first on the low ground, it's going to cancel the CC, right? And it puts you in a horrible, terrible position. So I think that's what it is. It's more of a forcing play than really him wanting to do any damage. It means that his opponent's not going CC first or getting really aggressive tech. And in this game, he's been pretty successul early on here.
Yeah, Reaper just got picked off.
Quite a bit more successful, and I do like that a little mismatch right there. And yeah, that makes sense. It is really kind of forcing Zan to make possibly uncomfortable decisions. He doesn't get to rush up to starport as fast as he might want. Doesn't get to drop, 2-3 refineries as fast as he wants. But I'm also kind of scared about the follow-up. He's got his natural base comfortably set up, but he also does know that Zan is probably forced to 3 racks. Does pressure come from that? Is it holdable?
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly hold it. We saw it in game 3 of their last game. We went well into the late game. We didn't have any huge damage done from drops throughout the game by Zan. I think it's certainly a little bit more aggressive opening, right? It's getting some of your tech out a little bit later there. You're not going to have any mines or anything like that to defend. So I think it's curious. I mean, you'd almost think, hey, Zan, you won game 1 of the last series. Why don't you just do what you did in that game? This map doesn't lend as well, right, to really getting to drop all over the place. There are some safer thirds to take on Overgrowth, a lot closer by air positions, so that's helpful. But it's certainly curious. He's going to force an overcharge here. Looks like he's just going for a couple probe kills, only manages one.
It's a very interesting opening from both players, and it seems to be somewhat mirroring what they were doing in the past series, if I'm not mistaken.
You're quite correct.
I think it's the DTs that are most interesting to me. He's not been very hidden about them, very aggressive about them, just kind of allowing them to be scouted, but still trying to make them work. And is that just kind of seeing what he can get done, and if not, he's going to have some faster Archons in the 12-ish minute mark, or is he just really trying to see what is going to happen with this DT?
Well, I mean, I think it's very similar to him proxying that first gateway, right? It's just a matter of he sees the investment as being worth what it guarantees, and then in this case it has the potential, right, to get him big rewards. It forces this missile turret. If the missile turret doesn't go down, it forces a scan, right? Or if that doesn't happen, then he loses SCVs or he loses mining time. So, I mean, maybe he likes that by itself. But in our last series, right, and throughout the tournament, we've seen him get good utility throughout the series and throughout the length of the games with his DTs, right? Last series in our game 3, he used them. He'd drop them along with 2 Zealots, warp them in with a handful of Zealots. So they're good for that and good defensively. So
they're a great harass unit. Zan, although he's very fast, I've seen him miss his worker reaction a couple times. Not too detrimental, but I believe one time in the third game, the turret was sniped before Zan really was able to start repairing it. But one interesting thing, you said it did force, and it has forced there not being a turret really defending this mineral line. It's going to require a second or possibly a third turret, so there's going to be 3 turrets total rather than 2 to defend these 2 bases. So, probably not an Oracle, but if he does decide to go for one, it's relatively open. It's at least going to force another reaction of Zan. Pretty fast charge, though, it looks like.
Yeah, and that's what he did last game, and he managed to take a pretty good fight, pushing back some aggression from Zan right when charge finished. Really, really sort of fortunate timing, and he made good advantage of it. in our last game between these two. So we'll see if that's what he intends. I don't know if he wants it just so he can actually take a big fight like that, or if he intends to be aggressive if nothing else happens.
Yeah.
But once again, we see pretty early, right? He's getting a good immortal count to be able to stay in these fights and deal some damage.
Yeah, 3 mortals already, another one on the way. Zan a little bit too ahead of his +1. I think that's what he's going to be waiting for if he does want to go in. But you're right, there's a strong force here. He did already force the overcharge, which is a little bit unfortunate, but probably a bit too much to handle. Almost snipes one of the Phoenixes, would have been a nice pickup.
Yeah, I do like, he got Concussive Shell last in this one, and I think that's helpful. It's let him push out onto the map a little bit more comfortably early. Sure, he's not going to get, the pick of an individual unit, but it lets him do something like this push right here, and he pushes in right as Concussive Shell ends. But once again, right, so charge being very scary here, allowing him to push back any big bio push there, reinforced by the Immortals. Can't get on top of Immortals if there's Zealots in front.
So
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so Zan kind of making some changes this game though. He's going for a whole lot of Vikings. Like he's got double reactor production of Vikings, in fact.
And he, in fact, hasn't scouted. He's essentially blind countering, thinking that the same thing that happened last game is going to happen this game, and that we're going to go up to a significant Colossus count. But we, in fact, don't even have the robotics phase started.
It's an interesting
It'll
choice.
be interesting. I mean, they're not bad against Phoenix, but there's not. The Phoenix aren't the game changers in this game. There are only 5 of them, right?
Yeah,
so it helps protect his medevacs, but it means that he's not building medevacs, he's building Vikings.
Yeah, there's not this heavy committal in Phoenixes. There's 5. There's actually only 3 medevacs on the field, and we're nearing the 15-minute mark, which is a pretty low amount. If the Viking to be out of place and the Phoenixes snipe 1, 2, or all 3 of them, that's a pretty big hit to the army of Zan, and he actually is pulling the boys. Wow.
I think this is a great choice, though. So he has the Vikings, right? The only thing that would really save and be able to push this fight off is good force fields and Colossus, right? That's what wins you the game. It lets you get a few volleys off to kill the boys. And then you have the army behind that to try to win from here. It's going to be really hard for Playa to hold. This is a great push out of Zan. So we'll see. The big thing is he doesn't have the medevac count to really stim that much, right? So he's got to be really careful when he stims, because he has to take the fight then. So those 2 DTs, once again, being really useful defensively. Now he's sandwiched in the middle. Photon overcharge goes down. He hasn't picked off the Nexus yet, but he is going to clear up the ground army if he wants to.
Yeah, this is a really big force still here for Zan. But a couple of the bigger units for Playa still alive did drop the Vikings for a second. He's been able to destroy most of the army for Playa. Does snipe the natural, however, he's very, very overstimmed. That's about all he's going to be able to do.
Right, exactly. And he does still have a couple of medevacs still in the fight, but he's going to run out of scans for DPs, right? So
Yeah.
as long as Playa can get some decent orphans, there are no workers behind this. Well, 15 rather workers behind this for Zan.
He might actually be
This
able
is
to
a
get
tough
the
situation.
third base, though. Which is going to make this a lot more valuable. He lost a lot of units, a lot of workers. But getting that third base is going to make it quite a bit more valuable. That being said, there is a DT running into the natural of Zan with not really anything that can answer for it.
Right, and the big thing here, right, is Zan doesn't want to. He doesn't want to scan. He doesn't want to lift bases. He wants to mine and he wants to mule. So, I mean, it does look. He should be able to cancel this base again, but it's really scary for him still to charge up this ramp. I mean, he can win the fight maybe. He certainly has the stronger army right now, but it looks like Playa might try to fight with probes.
Yeah, he is going to go for it, and that actually was the last scan. 1 DT.
Zan
would
can
be
pick
kind
up
of
here. There's
intense.
nothing to stop him. He does. Manages to get out with his army, but it's the same deal, right? Playa has the better mining potential. He's got a basically long-range mine at this point. He's way oversaturated as main, but Zan has less options than him right now.
Yeah, it's only 20 or so workers plus a mule to almost 50 probes to 2 mules is not bad, of course, but you're right. There is the DTs looming over. It was a really early DT, but you're absolutely right. It's kind of scared Zan so much that he's not able to really kind of pull the boy's mule, get a bunch of SCVs, and do it 2 or 3 more times.
Right.
Just because of the fear that a DT could be defensive or aggressive, and he needs to save scans for it.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, in the end, this game, right, Zan, really clever timing there, really strong push, but he blind creates, right, like 14 Vikings instead of adding medevacs, adding 2 more barracks, adding maybe mines or something weird like that. So, I mean, it makes the push that much weaker, and it means that he can't stay in the fight. He might turn this around still, though. His army is still much scarier than Playa's, and Playa still doesn't really have the production behind this.
Yeah, he's been taking really, really good trades, Zan has. And you're absolutely right. There's what, 3, 4 gates? It's not terrible, but there's not a bunch of AoE.
There's no photon overcharge in this game, so this is a close fight. I mean, DT's still very scary, right? We're very limited in our scans. Looks like we do have 2.
Mothership Core was actually never remade, and the probes are going to get pulled for this fight.
Guardian Shield goes down. The probes are tanking for the army, but he's not doing any damage to the army of Zane.
Yeah, would almost like to have seen him kind of pull off the Archon to go for those really low health medevacs, because there's still only 4 on the map. He's only gotten 1 more, and killing 1 or 2 of these would have been just so much more detrimental.
The medevac's very low on energy and health. And it looks like he's trying to make something happen here. I don't know if he's trying to move back defensively, if he wants to be aggressive with these medevacs. He's got to be careful not to leave this one. Medevacs are a precious commodity right now.
Absolutely. And it does look like Zan has been able to equalize and then actually take a bit of a worker lead. Mainly with this poking, he's been forcing Playa to pull probes when he really doesn't want to. But the amount of scans that just have to go down, I mean, that was 1 full mule just to kill 1 DT, and it's just kind of whittling away his chances to take a bigger economic lead.
Yeah, this is curious. This has been very dynamic play out of Zan. Good decision making, doing exactly what he needs to. He's keeping Playa at home, and he's trying to, trade for workers. So they're both on a 1 base economy essentially right now. Zan having the benefit of being able to mule and get his economy going faster than Playa's able to remake his economy. But very scary. A couple Phoenix coming out now to limit the drop potential and pick off those precious medevacs.
Yeah,
that's a huge trade for Playa.
We're going to be down to 3 medevacs now. I don't think a single Phoenix got lost. Maybe only 1 or 2 Zealots. Really, really good reaction to that drop. Oh, we might actually get another medevac. Should be able to catch this one running away.
Yeah, decides he doesn't want to trade the Phoenix for it. Not a bad choice. Zan getting a really scary army at home, and Playa not really keeping up with that. He doesn't have the Zealot count or the AoE to really tank through a fight here. And we've got a really scary Marauder count. That's my big thing, is Marauders are going to do good damage against the Archons. They're going to have the range to kite back against Archons and Immortals, so oh no, this is a tough situation for Playa. Zan's been able to drag this game out long enough to get back in it.
Yeah, he's been able to, you're right, so he's been able to get very well back into it, killed a few probes here and there. He's actually taken quite a substantial worker lead by this point. The army for Playa is scary, but you're right.
Zan catches him out on the map. A good stim. Decent force field goes down, but it's not enough. The army of Zan's just too strong now.
Yeah, an aggressive stim forward was very, very well timed by Zan. Unfortunately, that was actually his last medevac. So although he's going to be able to clean this up pretty well, he's not going to be able to be too extremely aggressive behind it, at least for a few moments. But with his extra economy, extra production potential, he's already got a smaller force coming across the map, and not very much in response from Playa by this point in time.
Yeah, just about any trade in the middle of the map there would have been a pretty good one for Zan, and he ended up taking a pretty bad fight there, but the fact is, he traded his slightly higher supply army for most all of Playa's army, and he has one behind it. So Things are looking bleak now for our Protoss hero.
It looks like the main base has been transferred to the 4th, not mining at the moment. But he seems to be pretty comfortable with where he is defensively. The DTs are being annoying, but he's able to clean them up pretty well. Decent amount of SCVs do go down, and Playa has actually been able to almost equalize the economy once again. Interesting back and forth between both of these players. Playa actually significantly in the lead of gas production. However, as you've noted multiple times, the production value of Playa's base is just very, very small compared to what Zan is able to pump out.
All right, and so we have a push coming in on the 3rd. This is the 3rd that Playa needs to be able to get back in this game. Zan stimming back to get the reinforcement from his mines. He does have 3 medevacs, but there's a lot of DPS in this army of Playa's still.
Yeah, Archon able to do a lot of damage to those much weaker Marines. Not very good heals from the medevac. Decent Widowmine hit, but it was cleaned up pretty fast. Looks like there's an observer with the army. And you're right, he needs to hold on to this 3rd base as long and as indefinitely as possible. Looks like a small drop coming into the main base, but a couple of DTs will easily be able to clean that up.
Yeah, so that gets repelled. Zan, in the meantime, though, behind his aggression, has been able to establish a 4th. Right, he's lifted his main to the natural 4th location. And Playa just holding on to his 3rd and half of his natural, right? It's not mining at full potential. So we're still in a really tough situation here. We've seen Playa, though, has started to get sentries, which is kind of curious. He just has really low mineral income, so it makes sense. But he typically doesn't like to make those. They're not super strong in the larger fights, but it gives him some flexibility, right, as any other spellcaster does.
Yeah. I mean, it allows his Archons to get a bit better clumps, the Zealots to get on top. But at the end of the day, if those 2 or 3 Archons go down too fast, get a bad engagement, that's the bulk of his DPS, and a huge drop, 3 medevac drop going into the natural base. Bunch of Widowmines immediately burrow.
Good connections from the Widowmines, but really not so terrible. It looks like Playa might be able to clean this up, but this is a tight fight. Regardless, he did the damage he came to do, right? He cleared that mineral line. He's no longer mining.
Yeah.
He really does want to keep these medevacs alive.
Couple more.
Anything that costs gas, so precious in this game right now.
Couple more medevacs do go down. Playa will be able to clean this up without the worst of losses. But again, it wasn't very handedly. He was pretty unprepared for that. And at the same time, another really big army is moving its way to the 3rd base, and it's going to be up to Playa to get himself over that side of the map and hopefully have enough to clean it up.
He doesn't have the army to hold this. As long as Zan doesn't make a grave error like move commanding his army in here, he should be able to hold. He has mines behind this. He has units rallied across the map. I think this is Zan's time to break it. He's got his medevac count up high enough, right, that he can stand these fights.
Yeah, I
really
like
the mines. He's going to take everything efficiently here.
The mines are actually really, really nice from Zan. It allows him to kind of take some damage, pull back, and then, I mean, he picked off an Archon almost for free. And actually, the first Archon before that went down for free. And we might be seeing GG here pretty soon. Very strong back and forth game, but I'm not sure Playa is going to be able to pull himself finally back out of this game. At the same time, the pink line is just streaming across the map, and the remaining forces for Playa are just warping in a few at a time, and that's GG.
Yeah, a good game by Zan there. He really things looked dire, right? Playa took a great trade. He was able to multi-prong. He won a big fight, right? But then he just wasn't able to follow up and do the damage behind it. Zan managed to pick off 2 bases.
Yeah,
and from there turn his economy around to get his production back up and take a huge lead.
Yeah, he was really all over the map, pulling Playa's very small forces in just too many directions. And and kind of the traditional Terran small advantages over and over. I realize my camera is off. I'm talking to darkness. But yeah, it's just a really kind of small advantages kind of eventually pulling Playa apart.
Yeah, that was a crazy game. Like it really was just a lot of the little skirmishes and just barely being able to, get a couple more probe kills, get a couple more, retention of your units, and picking off, some of the immortals and the things like the immortals and the archons before they turned into, a more overwhelming force out of Playa, as well as being able to, consistently snipe off those nexuses when he really needed to. Definitely help Zan get to where he wants to be in life, which is ahead. So we've got Vani Research Station coming up next. We are loading into the lobby right now. We'll be loading into the game in just a little bit, and we'll see. I guess, this is, Playa took this map the last time they met, in a very long macro game where Playa was by the end of the game, Playa had vastly out-macroed Zan, and kept him down to 3, maybe 4 bases eventually. But it was all low mining on those bases, so really only the income of a base or 2 each time. We'll see if they go for the same kind of style. An SCV pull here could be a little more difficult, as it is just again a lot longer of a walking distance. You've got a good
I'll be
10 15 more seconds to actually get that army up that you need. So
yeah, and it was kind of curious, right? Because it was a great timing push, but it wasn't a great composition out of Zan. And likewise, it was a great hold, but really bad positioning out of Playa, right? To start out that sort of fight there. He had no idea it was coming, right? Until basically the ramp to his natural. So he was able to hold really well and trade well, but like you said, pretty good trades out of Zan.
Cool. So we have loaded up into Vani Research Station. It is the second game of this best of 5. Zan is currently leading 1-0, and he has spawned as the Pink Terran for Team Ascension. He is Zan.
And coming through the winner's bracket, but down 1 game, spawning at the bottom, our Red Protoss Playa.
Want me to take the next one?
Oh,
we got both.
Oh,
That's all right, Jackson.
I'm trying
you
to
can
find
introduce spawning in the middle of the map every single time at Vani Research Station. It is the Xel'Naga Watchtower.
Yes, it is. It's actually
so majestic.
Speaking of the Xel'Naga, it's a really interestingly placed one. It doesn't really allow you to just kind of split the map in half, unless you know your Zerg and Zerg map hacks, etc. But it's kind of weird. You don't really get to just be like, all right, I'm going to take the 2 Xel'Nagas. Hopefully he doesn't kill my Marines there, and I see 90% of the middle of the map. Which I think has been kind of a design choice for the majority of the season.
So the gig is up here from Zan, right? He knows there's a proxy gateway somewhere on the map. This time he's probably hoping not to lose 2 SCVs to it. That's not a great start.
That looked like a faster refinery this game, however. Did not actually see the timing, but that would be interesting. It might delay the Reaper a little bit and just kind of opt for a bit more defensive unit, just kind of knowing that the Zealot and Stalker is going to be coming.
Hero SCV is going for the pylon. He's going to take it down himself.
What if it's Widow Mine drops or something instead of, or some sort of factory unit drop? Because, a refinery that quickly means...
Yeah, he's opened with a Marine. I think you might be right, Kevin. I think that's actually kind of a cool play against the style that we've been seeing out of Playa. But, this is exactly what Playa is trying to punish, this sort of play, so we'll see how it goes.
Although Playa does get a photon cannon in the mineral line pretty quickly. So, yeah, I mean, maybe. Then again,
It could
I'm no
be
pro.
just a push. It could be a push with Marines, backed up by Widow Mines, but he's got so much gas. He's got to be dropping a starport after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's starting to look like a 1-1-1. We're gonna have to see if it's a reactor or a tech lab coming up, because that'll change the options a lot. And, you're right. You can have a bunch of Marines, Hellion 2, or Widow Mines, and a medevac kind of elevator or drop straight up. But a tech lab could potentially change things a lot more. Obviously there's an aggressive Banshee. And there's a few other aggressive builds that can come from a tech lab. Would probably like to see a reactor in this point in time. Sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting 1-1-1. It's a long flight distance on this build. It's not like King Sejong, where we saw a bunch of a 1-1-1 in TVP. But we're going to have to see how it goes. Almost definitely going to be a medevac coming out of the starport. And Zen is looking to clean this up, clean the gateway up pretty fast. He should. And no, he's not going to be able to get before the stalker, though. And it looks like he actually gets quite a bit of damage to the stalker. But the SCV does go down. And actually a little bit of a probe lead for Playa. It looks like Zan cut his SCVs a little bit to pump out this Stargate a little bit faster.
Right. So I mean, to not follow this up with medevacs is really tough. This is a horrible map to be aggressive early on the ground. Just I mean, you have a one wide ramp at the front. So one sentry, right, even warped in after scouting your push is enough to deflect your advance for 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Or to split your army, right, and force a really bad fight, or pick off your medevac, something horrible. So I like the choice. And Playa does get to scout this coming early.
Yeah, Zan was being really diligent about hiding the mine. Nice placement of the Zealot is going to show the mine. And of course, when the attack is coming, and actually a couple Marine kills does help out. Unfortunately, I don't think the medevac has been scouted. It can be sort of assumed, but the extra information is never a problem. Photon overcharge immediately goes down, and it looks like Zan is not even going to...
He's going right over to the natural. There's one cannon, but very little in the way of gateway units. Just
and those mines are just going to hold down the ramp pretty well. There's only one pylon down here, and I think it's actually only one gateway in general. The DTs have finished, though, and it looks like one's going to get warped in really quickly.
Right, so it forces scans, but once again, this is good play by Zan to, trying to gain an advantage off the really low, or the really late, rather, robos that we've been seeing out of Playa. His build has stayed pretty consistent. There have not been a lot of surprises between games here. Forces out a scan for free.
Yeah,
and also opts to leave the mine. I think he could have picked it up. There's only one stalker there, but maybe he thinks he can get something done with it here.
Yeah, he might be trying to bait the stalker out a little bit. Don't think it's going to happen. I'm not sure it could actually do enough. It might actually be able to do enough.
That Dark Templar just sliced nothing. Just swiped in the air the Marine, picked up by his fair lady, just in time.
I noticed Nivik saying something about nightmares of the DTs, which,
yes.
And I can definitely sympathize with that in as any race. If I'm Protoss or Terran or Zerg, I hear
That's
that noise.
That's the white noise that I fall asleep to.
All right, well, I've probably lost.
Sweet music to my ears. We have Combat Shield and Stim coming down at the same time. Still 3 racks. Reactor starport. We have our +1 attack started, though.
Combat Shield was a little bit faster. Could have just been a gas thing, but that tells me he's not going to want to be extremely aggressive in the early stages. Also, the slow amount of Marines is kind of an interesting choice for the faster combat shield. You're right, it's going to be quite a while until +1 does finish. Going to have concussive shells here pretty soon, however. Don't think he knows about this DT, which is going to force another scan. That is at least 2, possibly 3 scans so far.
But here we go again. Crafty little warp prism at the back. Gets 1 DT in, right?
Mm-hmm.
For 6 kills.
Should be able to kill the turret. Actually, it does get repaired at the last second. Very nice for Zan. He's already spent so many scans. He really doesn't want to. But 5 kills, repositioning the army, and another drop. This warp prism is being very, very obnoxious.
And if he goes to the right side of the mineral line here, it forces another scan. There's not actually... He can stay far enough away from the missile turret. And this DT picking up 4 kills of its own.
Yeah, almost 10 workers between the two of them. Really nice for the only investment in 2 DTs. And actually the SCV count of Zan is relatively low. It's kind of hard to compare to Playa, who we've noticed likes to get lots and lots of workers. But 36 at this point in time isn't very much just in general. And it looks like another DT at the natural, just being super, super annoying, keeping Zan in his base and worrying about his defense.
Right behind that, Playa has started his 3rd. He's gotten charge. As we've seen him do before, and things so far are starting to look in his favor. He's got that same immortal count as last game. Started to crank those out. He's already up to 3. Just a little bit lower than last game for that warp prism, but I would say that warp prism certainly did its damage. He's now got it parked, looking for drops into that back natural.
Yeah,
I kind of expect him to cannon up at that natural like he did in their previous series.
Very comfortably able to get a 3rd base. Zan seems has been able to get his as well, but we got Colossi this time, and I don't think that is scouted out by Zan, although he does drop another starport, so he might just be kind of pseudo-blind countering once again with a bunch of Vikings, but we'll have to see if it's kind of a mind game trick and he makes way too many medevacs this game.
Yeah, and this game, very critical. The scan to confirm tech, right? He gets to see the Colossus sitting right in the middle of the base there. That's a huge difference, right? That confirms. That means that this game, maybe not 14 Vikings right away, right? But he can very comfortably make at least, half that number.
Really nice timing on the scan. I don't think it would have hit the Robo Bay with its range, but you're right, it dropped right on top of the spawning Colossus. There was no way for Playa to really kind of hide his tech, and he's going to be able to pump out 4 Vikings to begin with. We're going to see how many he's going to invest in, but he knows that this time he's not making a mistake, and almost probably definitely won't go for 14 after the 16-minute mark.
Probably not. So we see Extended Thermal Lance being a little bit earlier this game than previously. That's certainly helpful for both offense and defense. It's not really pointing us towards anything here. He's getting us +2 armor, which is good against bio all the time. Yep. So Phoenix once again, probably to clear drops again, but we'll see. He might try to get to those counts that we've seen out of some pro players, where you get them to try to counter your opponent's Viking and medevac count. Especially good against big Marauder counts.
Looks like the War Prism is going to be going back in. We're going to see how much can get done this time. And it's I think it's really been played out well by Playa so far, but at the same time, Zan has not been taking destructive damage. He's been responding very, very well. His scouting has been almost on imperfect this game. And he's already got a Viking count of 8 with 4 more on the way. It's going to do a lot of damage to only 2 or so Colossi with, looks like, no Stalkers in support.
Right, yeah, so once again, Playa doing everything in his power not to produce more than his opening Stalker. That first Stalker gives him, some map awareness, some map control, things like that, allows him to better defend. But he doesn't really want them in these later fights. Playa is up on supply, but per usual, Zan is up on army supply, right? Once again, Playa is already at a high enough worker count that he can be taking a 4th, and in this case, he's taking his 5th as well, expansion.
Yeah, Actually, one thing that I'm really noticing about Playa this game is his extreme map vision, and I guess you could say control from that. And he's got a probe out here. He's got some pylons everywhere. His phoenixes are just kind of all over the map. He really knows what's coming out of Zan before it ever really happens. It's allowing him to be very comfortable in getting, like you mentioned, his 4th and 5th base pretty rapidly. He's not too afraid, and at the same time, he's actually pushing forward. He seems very comfortable with his control of the south side of the map.
Yeah, and so the big thing here is he can't take a big stimmed army. We're bringing the boys once again. In fact, more of the boys than before. So this is a really scary fight for Play. He doesn't want to take this out in the open. If he gets some good time warps down, he can stutter out of this. But if he loses his Colossus too quickly, chance. The Vikings are a little out of position.
Yeah, and it looks like...
No time warps because we got some really good EMPs out of Zan there. So this is just a matter of warpins, and if he can make this up, he should morph his Templar into Archons. He needs them for the tank, if nothing else. So he's able to do this, and this is a really low bio count now. If he can get some good target fires down, yeah, he cleans it up, all but Vikings left.
Yeah, all the Colossi did go down, but they went down very slowly. A little bit, unfortunately, misplaced Vikings by Zan at the beginning of the fight. He is able to clean up almost all
counting him out yet.
players.
We're at supplies. We're at 55 to 14 army supply for Zan. Unfortunately, a lot of that in Vikings. But if he's able to make the same use out of them as he did last game, he could certainly turn this one around.
Yeah, there's no question he's going to be able to clean up this 4th base on the left side. You're right, he has a very high army supply differential, and actually just a large supply buff in general. When you think about the fact that Playa has 85 probes compared to Zan's 30 SCVs, it's a ton of army supply.
I don't think Zan can go home right now, though. We see cannons coming out, right? For Playa, not a bad call. He really needs to keep that Colossus alive. Great shots from the Archons on those Vikings.
Yeah, almost all the Vikings do go down. Last 2 go down. Colossi pretty able to free range.
And reigns supreme, and he's able to hold this game.
Yeah, you're right. He did a lot of damage. He had a large army, but he's really running out of steam. That was a ton of SCVs pulled. Little bit unfortunate that the Colossi didn't go down a bit faster. But really well held by Playa. Really well played.
Yeah, that was an impressive hold of the boys. He showed he, as Sam so elegantly stated in a previous game, he came near to the pimp smacking of the boys. Perhaps we could bring that word back. Are we gonna make that word a thing?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh boy. So now we are. We've got a 1-1 situation in this best of 5 between Zan and Playa, and we're going to be moving on to Secret Spring. I don't think we've seen these two play on Secret Spring before.
I don't know what any of the new maps look like. I'd have to double check.
It's the one with the one pathway down the middle.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
No, in fact, we haven't.
I know we've seen a number of ZBTs on this map. But not a whole lot. I don't think we've seen Zan and Playa go up against each other in this one. So we will see. So let's see. Thinking of their play styles, Secret Spring definitely a good map to be dropping on. Partially because there are a lot of big open spaces in a number of the bases. The bases are pretty far apart a lot of the time, especially by ground,
right.
The third base is. As well as that, the only option at the beginning of the game is just to go straight down the middle. You're not able to, you have to knock down the rocks on the northwest and southeast side to actually be able to go around those sides. So dropping is kind of your option if you want to be multi-pronged. So yeah, we'll see if... see what they decide to do this game instead.
It's interesting that you mentioned drop play because Playa shut down drops almost entirely that last map. He was struggling with it, not terribly hard in the first map, but there were still drops here and there. The earlier drops specifically were pretty good, but Playa had shut down everything except for the first drop, almost completely entirely. And Zan actually completely stopped dropping after a certain period. And it got a little bit scary there at that last big fight for Playa. But without that added kind of economic detriment, tech slowing because of the drops, he really just needed to hold on for the last few seconds. And that's exactly what he did. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that he was only focusing on what he wanted to do to Zan rather than responding to what Zan was doing to him.
Sure.
Yep, so we are loaded here on into Secret Spring, our third map in the Best of 5 in the Grand Finals, and up in the top right as the pink Terran we have our boy from Minnesota in Team Ascension. He is Zan.
And spawning at the bottom left, our red Protoss, Playa.
Playa's doing something weird.
He's doing something weird.
He's very bold this game.
This is a little new, and I mean, maybe this is an adjustment, him seeing that the bunker has been relied upon each time.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the shorter rush distance of this map, but there's not a ton of things that
This is weird.
to do about this. The barracks coming down very late. If he can delay it even a second, very scary, right? So, so Zan needs to be really careful about letting this probe do any more damage than absolutely necessary. Playa trying to be really annoying here, and I mean, this has all the same potential, right, to do everything and maybe even a little more than the prior pushes.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a cool adaptation for setting the pace for us from Playa.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how this actually works out. I mean,
100% of games, Kevin, I don't like to have gateways from the other player building in my base.
yeah, and I mean, I think the Zealot's still not going to do a ridiculous amount of damage because
We're not even going to have a Marine out by the time he finishes.
yeah, I mean, I guess it means you need to go ahead and need to do a whole lot more.
Oh, they're
going to
try to wall him in. That's
He's
a really
walling
great
him in.
response. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love this.
Oh, and he's opened another Zealot instead of teching at home.
Yeah,
He has 2 gases, so he's certainly not committed to this. It probably
Certainly.
depends whether or not he'll finish this on how well this first Zealot does. You can't repair buildings being built.
yeah, but
He
now
just
that
manages to finish. I think he'll cancel that second Zealot.
yeah, the bunker is down. I don't even think 2 Zealots would be able to attack that at the same time anyway. So you're not.
Oh, he finishes it.
Oh no!
And it's
now
trapped.
supposed to be- Yeah, that Zealot's he's got nowhere to go. He's pretty well abandoned by the rest of his clan. There's no, yeah, there's no chance for him. But I mean,
If that first Zealot had managed to kill the bunker before it finished, that would have
Yeah.
been a huge win. I mean, because then Playa, right, gets to push in. But even though that's all that happens, right, he's invested 2 Zealots this game, right? A little bit later, Cybercore. He's forced an early second barracks instead of a factory and 2 bunkers. That's not a bad trade.
yeah,
He's not going to get a stalker
Oh my
out this
gosh!
game,
I
though.
didn't put the frickin' in-game view. No!
No!
Oh my god, this production value. So we're gonna call that a radio cast. All right.
Oh, we weren't even watching the game?
No.
I thought you were
Anyway.
saying we were going to have it in the pip pop.
Nope. So right. So we. Oh man, Twitch chat's gonna hate me.
Twitch chat should hate you, Kevin.
So we had a proxy gateway. We'll just say we fast forwarded the game a little bit. You know, this is where we're at. So basically, proxy gateway up into the main base of Zan, right at his front. Zan decides then to wall in that gateway with a wall of buildings and a couple of bunkers. He holds off. There were 2 Zealots made. One did fall. It got stuck in this little pocket down here, not able to escape. Zan going for a little bit more delayed gas, and then instead going for a few extra barracks to hold that off. But kind of rolling with it, and just kind of going with his, well, maybe not standard build anymore, because now he's
there's
up
some
to,
much earlier CC.
3 CCs, yeah.
Yeah.
And Playa being, well, does Playa get his Nexus before his Dark Shrine?
Typically.
I think so, yeah. And so this is maybe actually going for some sort of all. I don't even know if you can go for an all-in on this. There's so much different tech. It's hard to get that massive units that you need to really get a good all-in.
Zan building a new bunker at the top of his ramp. This is a lot of respect given, right? He's going 3cc, so it makes sense. You still want this bunker. I think we're going to see a DT drop into like a 4-gate warp prism all in. Or maybe Playa is going to expand. Yeah, it looks like he is expanding. It's really curious. This is a much faster follow-up into dropping DTs. There's not a lot at Zan's disposal right away here to deal with this. He is finishing an engineering bay, so he will have missile turrets. He does have scans available. He's got that 3rd CC for energy after all, but I don't know. So I don't know how this is going to work out. He's got the warp prism started already.
Yeah, an engineering bay already down. And well, yeah, he's seen the Dark Shrine. I guess, I mean, some safety turrets, not a bad choice. I don't know if Zan has confirmed that, you know, the natural timing or anything like that.
Right.
But he probably assumes that the natural is a little earlier than it already is, if anything. But he does have this 3cc, and so he's probably feeling pretty comfortable with, okay, I can take maybe a little economic hit in the missile turrets just to be safe.
Right. Well, if nothing else, it's helpful to have the missile turrets there just to prevent any like really close buy drop or any really close warp in from the warp prism.
Yeah, no warping in directly in the mineral line from that warp prism.
And he should know there's the potential here for that warp prism. He got to see the robo as well, so he should be able to pretty safely push this away. We'll see if Play is able to do anything. He will get the scout, right? So hopefully he'll get to see the 3rd CC for him. Oh, right away. And this DT can, kind of between missile turrets, still be annoying. Right, so he gets a scout. And he might force the scan still here. It depends. We do have a lot of turrets around. Not sure we have an available scan. We do. DT jukin. Fort his life, quite literally.
Yeah. This DT is definitely getting the kills that it wants, though. I mean, for the cost of, you know, 1 Dark Templar getting 9 SCVs, I think Play is pretty happy with that.
And this is where nightmares come from. Searching his base, thinking, could there be more DTs? Playa continuing. He's only at 2 gateways, right? But he's continuing to warp in against his opponent here. Does manage to save those 2 zealots. Playa going in again, getting another couple kills, but it looks like Zan will be able to clear out that DT.
Certainly. I mean, I guess at this point though, it's like, yeah, Playa got those kills that he wants, but in this game, Zan went for the 3cc first, so the worker supply is still in his favor. And actually, I mean, Playa also went for a bit of a later Nexus as well, and so...
Yeah, and I think that's really less than Playa was hoping to get done there. The Warp Prism will continue to be useful, right? It'll keep Zan's army at home or force damage. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing an even worker count plus mules for Zan, and that's much closer than previous games have been in the worker counts. So I'm guessing this isn't exactly where Playa wanted to land himself, especially with how well we thought that opening might have gone with the proxy gateway that game.
Yeah, Zan responding very well, and I mean he is making little adaptations throughout the series to make sure he gets what he wants to get done, I suppose. And he will be, as it is Terran, it's maybe a little bit easier than Protoss to defend this 3rd base that he's taking as well. So we'll see if that comes into play. Playa also taking his 3rd base about the same time, though, although Zan's is, already up and running, and the workers are already, in that little bit of a lead. But
yeah, so we still have pretty close worker counts. A big push coming across the map from Zan. Once again, this is scary to push into the main and the natural, right? But he does get to check on the 3rd. So as long as he goes through the diligence of checking it, he's seen probes transferring, he knows it's there. He should be able to go over and pick this off. There's not nearly enough on the ground for Playa at this stage to push this away.
yeah,
And that far away 3rd falls pretty quick.
And even even this army of Playa, like, the sentry helps a whole lot with that ramp.
Right,
but,
it allows him to hold, right? Because you don't really want to pick up against this sort of army, especially with, just the one medevac with the army, but...
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he certainly can't come down his ramp either.
Yeah, there's no way of him retaking this third really anytime soon, and I'm not even sure what would his option be for like.
His
I don't
option
know.
right now is to two base all in.
I guess, but
Maybe he's better, and in fact he is better. I've lost to Playa like 6 times.
true.
But that to me is his option, and so we already see him cranking out Colossus, right? That's going to help him take a fight like this. But he doesn't have nearly the gateway count to be able to sit through a fight long enough. Good force fields.
I like
He does
those
force
force
the engagement, and Zan didn't want to take that fight.
No.
But I mean, we traded just about even supplies.
Yeah, and actually, really like that. I'm always amazed by Protoss armies, to be honest. Like
7 units against 40.
yeah, like how does that even? What's going on, eh? You know, like I don't
The
know.
thing that defies all reason is watching Liquid Hero
Yeah.
play ladder games and build one of every unit and then just barely break somebody.
Yeah.
Because he does kind of the opposite. Playa, gets just enough to hold, right? And then if he can manage that, he, can go on to victory. And Liquid Hero gets just enough to break his opponent. He micros his one little Phoenix, his one Colossus. Everything lives, and he
Yeah.
wins.
So
kind of wild.
if Zan gets in between here,
Yeah,
Playa's
he's
gonna be
totally
caught
free to go
up
back
way out
and
of
forth. We
position.
should see a time warp here to save the Colossus. This is a good fight for Playa, considering the supplies, but he just doesn't have enough.
and no
Doesn't have the
extended.
buffer for his Colossus to stay in this fight.
Yeah. And the lack of the thermal lance upgrade also playing a little bit of a role. The Marauders are the same range now. And again, this third base,
It's gonna get canceled or killed.
Playa admitting that, yeah, definitely not his favorite of maps. And off we go.
Funny enough,
onto
that
the
was
game four.
was his pick.
It was? I don't know. Sometimes he's just like, I don't really care. I'll do whatever. So maybe that's why. I mean, I think he knows that, all right, we're gonna probably, oh, not that screen. There we go. So yeah, Zan bringing it back, bringing it to a 2-1. He just needs to win one more game, and then he gets to play even more games, because he did come from the losers bracket, and this is the grand final. And so Zan will have to play a best of 3 to actually win this grand final. But Playa just needs to bring it back and win these next 2 maps to actually get himself into first place, which would be his first Midwest Cup. Actually, both of these players have not. They've both played in the Midwest Cup before. Playa has been playing in it in all of the seasons so far. Zan has played in the first one. He's coming back for the 4th one, and they've always whenever they've played, they placed up in the top 4, but never made it to first. So this is their opportunity. We'll see who's more hungry for it, basically.
Speaking of hungry, Kevin, it's getting to be
Yeah.
about that time.
It's a little bit. It's been a long time since you've been fed, isn't it? Are you like
Yeah. Somebody feed and water me. That's like a plant.
Yeah.
Next map here is Catalina. We will jump immediately to the game view this time around.
We will not mess that up this time.
It'll be certainly interesting to see, because I think you're right. We're looking at who wants it more, who's able to play patient and calmly and smartly, right? Because they've played a lot of games. They've played a lot of games against each other. So it's a matter of who can continue to either pull off their builds, right, or who can adjust their opponent's play style. But they have to stay in this game, right?
Yeah. Speaking of that, the patience. There's a point in time when you just start to get exhausted of, especially
Right.
Zan's been playing. I mean, I know Zan ladders long hours. I don't know if Jackson's here. I don't know if we can invite him to the game. I don't know. He might be stepping away for a while.
Sure.
So we can probably go without him if the players are ready. Yeah. But yeah, like the exhaustion of especially playing the same opponent for so long. I mean,
Right. Yep.
it definitely could get into your head of just like, oh, I keep I'm doing what I think is right, and it's just not working or something. Even though it's not like there's no super desperation right now. They've both taken maps off each other. They both know they can beat each other, but so they just need to kind of stay patient and keep on doing what they need to do. think so. Zan says he's ready. Playa. Just waiting on him to ready up. But yeah, I guess this is time to plug and talk about maybe what the Midwest Cup is, if we have just a little bit of time.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't have Jackson here, right? But
That's okay.
Thanks for joining us today.
Sure.
If you haven't already, follow Kevin's stream, Nivek706. Follow Kevin on Twitter. What is your Twitter, Kevin?
It is the same thing as the Twitch. It is at Nivek706. The 706 is there because it turns out taking your first name of Kevin and writing it backwards is not a very unique screen name, so.
But it's real tricky.
So it looks like Jackson has rejoined us right as the game has started, unfortunately. We'll have him casting from the sidelines. or something of that sort. But yeah, we are hopping into the game. Look at that in-game view. Even while
Look
we're
at
just
that
loading
in-game
into
view. The first 4 minutes can be
map.
exciting.
Hey, I mean, but with Legacy of the Void, Blizzard's just trying to get rid of the first 5 minutes of the game anyway, right?
That's right.
So,
Start with 12 workers.
already have,
4v4 fastest. No
there
rush,
should be
please.
there should be an option where like you can be like, I want to proxy this game, and you like get to place, you know, a proxy building or something right away, and it's like
Yeah, it'll be
It's
interesting.
next
They'll
level.
have to change some things, but yeah, you could do that. I mean, heck, you could cannon rush so fast. You could be cannon rushing at like a minute 40.
Oh boy. Anyway, maybe we'll see if some sort of cannon rush happens on this map, Catalina, for game number 4. Spawning down on the right-hand side of the map, he is our Pink Terran from Team Ascension, playing from Minnesota today. He is Zan.
And I believe out of Missouri, correct?
Yep.
At the top right of the map, we have our red Protoss down 1-2. Playa. So this time he's taken a little bit more of a gamble, or perhaps a different route, right? So we have our proxy pylon out here.
Yeah, interesting
He's
that
sort of just betting that his opponent's going to be at the left side here.
kind of
Otherwise,
interesting
this
that
gateway is pretty
he
far out there.
scouted like partway up the natural and then went home. It's sort of weird. I don't know.
It is indeed. It'll be interesting. I don't think he wants to cancel this gateway, even for just the tech timing. But I don't know if we'll still see the Zealot out of him. Be interesting to see. It looks like he's not opting to probe scout. He's just going home with his probe. So he probably will build the Zealot.
Sure.
If not, it'll just be an opening a stalker. That'd be pretty standard anyway. Zan going high and wide.
I don't even know where he's rallied around to. He's
He
going-
started looking for gateways,
Yeah.
and now he's looking for his opponent.
He has met kind of an interesting spot to put that gateway, because it actually, I mean, it highly gambles on the player being in this western position, but as
Right.
well as that, as we saw, even just Zan's scouting a CV for, you know, is my opponent top left or is he top right, ends up seeing that gateway as well. So kind of a weird spot to put things.
Yeah, and I mean, at some point in the series, right, especially after playing a player, in this case, right, they've already played 6 games together today.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just an attempt. Okay, I want to switch this up. I want to take a risk on this game and see if I can take a quick game number 4. You know, and that's just a strategic choice there.
Sure. Well, and I know Playa is not the biggest fan of Catalina, but
No,
he definitely doesn't like the drops that Zan. Although Playa, no, Zan took Catalina last time they met on this
yeah,
map, so
correct. It was their first game of their previous series, coming through the winners bracket. And some decent Reaper micro doesn't manage to quite pick off the probe.
yeah, not quite. This Zealot gonna start
Does
hacking
get a
away to
good scout,
bunker.
though.
I guess a couple of Marines will be out to save. Push away
Yeah, I mean
this
this
Zealot
is no
properly.
real risk. And Zan manages to get a full engineering day down. Most players would leave it just before it's finished, but he might have
Sure.
just finished it by accident.
Yeah, or I mean, well, I wonder.
Who knows? Maybe he wants to upgrade from it. Maximum disrespect.
I was gonna say, I wonder if like the missile turret will get out. But I don't even know. Well, yeah. I mean, he can finish a missile turret in his base now? I don't know. Or he bunkers up the
I
natural,
suppose that's true.
puts down a missile turret. He knows that a Dark Templar is coming out, right? Even though the gateway is over here on the west. Don't worry about that. It's got to
Don't
bunker
worry
up.
about
Got to
that.
bunker up the main. Big old contain. No, the engineering bay gonna start being taken down.
Very annoying.
Yeah, let's.
Zealot manages to pick off the SCV. SCVs happen to be faster than Zealots, but
Not faster than. Oh, I guess the Zealot did take it out. I guess, you know, Zan says, alright, you can have that one. It's okay.
yeah, so we'll see if Play is able to stabilize and kind of get into a little bit more of a groove. Zan has more or less had his way with this game. He's already got a mine out, starting his third command center, looking much like last game, minus the weird shenanigans starting at the beginning. The third on this map, notably easier to take for both players.
Well, it's not third command center. It's still just. The
Oh,
first,
yeah, you're
right?
right. You're right.
Okay.
It's the natural.
I was.
starting
You
on
kind
the
of threw
high
me off because there's a moment where I was like, okay, does Zan get greedy again? You know, on this map.
Right.
Choosing not to this time. But he is going to be trying out that the Marine and Widow Mine drops. We'll see if they're more effective, but typically Play has been very good at holding him off, and he will. Oh, he will. Oh, the Forge
does have
is,
it, yep.
is slower
The Forge
than
is
last
a little
time.
later.
Yeah.
Yep.
So actually, this will be a headache. He has 2 Widow Mines, and they will quite certainly get down. Where is the Stalker? He's over dealing with this Reaper on the west side, and so there's really nothing. I mean, there's a Zealot, so I guess there's going to have to be a lot of probe pulling. There will be a planetary overcharge, but once those mines are burrowed, they're...
Planetary overcharge.
What is it called?
Photon overcharge.
Sorry.
Oh, that's
I mixed
okay.
up Planetary Nexus and, you know...
So he does have a robo
words.
finishing. The Forge is done. But yeah, I mean, he's in a tough situation right now, Playa. He's a little bit behind where he wants to be.
If this mothership goes down, this is huge. It does get knocked down. Playa does manage to get the Nexus overcharge, turning his Nexus into a planetary Nexus. And, oh boy.
Playa does find the medevac out on the map and is able to pick that off with just the one Stalker. That's pretty cute play.
Sure, yeah.
He didn't, in the end, lose a ton of workers there, right? He did have to cancel a cannon, did lose the mothership core, did have to use 2 photon overcharges, but there's not a lot of aggression coming out of Zan, so in this particular situation, the follow-up was more economic for Zan than aggressive, so a little bit lucky for Playa there. He should have a photon overcharge up by the next time any dangerous push is coming. Zan being very conservative and certainly showing himself to be a little bit more patient player so far this game.
Yeah, certainly. Although I don't know. I guess we'll see how it all ends up kind of turning out at the end of the day. I really enjoyed Zan's kind of greedier play last time because he knows that. I mean, by this time he should know that Playa does not really all in, and holding down a third base probably pretty easy for Zan to do, especially on this map and in the spawning locations. I mean, he just has to protect from DTs or dropping from the warp prison. A DT does manage to just sneak by the bunker though.
Yeah, and that's very annoying. Any kills he gets there, right, are good.
Yeah,
He forces a scan. That's pretty ninja-like for
that was.
the Dark Templar, but they are invincible. They are probably practicers of ninjutsu.
True.
So we have a couple more gateways going down for Playa. Pretty consistently not liking to make those, but really base economy and creating Phoenix and trying to crank out some Immortals. You really don't have the money to run more than 3 gateways. Anything more than you have on that, I mean, really, that's just if you forget, right? A warp pin cycle if it's late.
Yeah,
You might be able to catch up a little bit, but
Playa's shown that he's not the type of player that, misses up on any of his macros, so going for just 3 gates, it's what he's been doing just about every game, I believe.
oh, that Phoenix going down.
That is pretty uncharacteristic. Do you have
Maybe
another
going
one
for a
backing
scout
up,
there,
or-
maybe just trying to poke the medevac a little bit, and then he diverted his attention or something like that.
Yeah. So
Zan doesn't seem interested in going home, though. I think he's waiting out this photon overcharge, and then he wants to have another go.
yeah, I think he saw, very few sentries, and I guess that, that means you can poke up and you don't have to worry about being caught in, in that natural base. There could be a time warp and that could hurt, but as it is, Zan must be pretty confident in his ability to, put a little bit of pressure on him and escape. These two drops, two medevacs to drop into the main base.
Are scouted by the
Just barely
Phoenix.
scouted, yeah. And a little bit of a funky drop on that left one.
DT comes down right away. It's going to force out another scan.
So yeah, we've got a little
Photon
fight
overcharge on the main.
running through the middle of the map too, but that's going to be pushed away by Playa. Zan's going to home it with not really his main force, but his second force, and then his army that's been dropped here is kind of in a tight spot.
You should probably pick up and go here. There's
Yeah,
not a ton to shoot him down right away.
certainly.
Rather than get everything cleaned up, he's now got a situation where he can retain some of that bio, something he's been doing really well throughout the series.
We'll see if this little sneaky Widow Mine ever has any sort of luck. Speaking of, oh, never mind. Playa's too good. He diverts his phoenixes from running over the Widow Mine. And
But he does, yeah, they do reveal themselves. Very craft placement. He replaces the Widow Mine to the ramp. And Widow Mines actually do a ton of damage against Immortals, so that really sucks for Playa there. Does get an Observer out. So once again, kind of like 2 games ago, we're seeing a high Phoenix count again.
Yep.
Coming out for Playa. We're seeing a lot of Marauders for Zan, and Zan with a very scary army marching across the map.
Yeah, no SCV pull this time though, which I mean in this sort of situation
I think
might have
this
actually
is
been
his cancel your third push.
good. Yeah, certainly. It's gonna contend with a
Playa
lot.
really low zealot count right now. He does have the 4 Immortals, he does have the Phoenix, but there are a lot of medevacs here for Zan. Playa hasn't been able to clean those up as well as in some of the previous games, and I think that's going to let Zan stay. Yeah, and he just cleans up the entire ground army for Playa here. There's just nothing for follow-up. Good game.
So Zan pulling it back. He is indeed hungry for the first place, and he gets himself a 3-0. Well, not 3-0, a 3-1. Pardon me, a 3-1 in this first grand finals match. I think I'll see if the players are okay with like a 2-minute break for everyone to go, do what they need to do, grab a drink of water or something like that. But then we will go on to a best of 3 that will be the deciding match for first and second place, as it is now. Playa came from the winners bracket, Zan from the losers, so Zan has to. He won that first series, the best 5, but now he's got to win one more best of 3 so that Playa is actually knocked out of the tournament. So I will ask, can we do 2-minute break? Cool. So it looks like the players are cool with taking just a quick little break. We'll get everything reset. We're gonna have the same sort of bans and vetoes, or vetoes and picks rather, out of these players, and then we will be doing a best of 3 and seeing who is the first and second place in the Midwest Cup number 4. So we'll be back in just a couple minutes, just a little short break to get everything reset, get the players ready, and get ourselves ready for this final match of the day. So before we go, though, if you've been enjoying the show, again, you can give any of us a follow, whether it be the Twitch channel. You can follow us on Twitter and contact us on Twitter. Tell us how we're doing if you like. Give us ideas for maybe the next Midwest Cup.
Bad news only, people.
Only
please.
bad news. I only enjoy
Only
negativity.
bad news.
No. Or you can go ahead and if you enjoy it, you've been enjoying the tournament, you can go ahead and tell your friends, and they can come in and watch this pretty interesting grand finals. A nice little run back by Zan, a nice little underdog story going on. And so we'll be back in just a couple of minutes, and we'll see you when we come back. Thank you for sticking around and watching the Midwest Cup number 4.
Boy, we can't wait, Kevin.
I can't wait.
Take us away.
All right, hello and welcome back to the Midwest Cup day number 2, the grand finals part number 2. This is the last match of the day. We're gonna have Playa versus Zan. One more best of 3 to go, and they will determine who ends up in first and who ends up just walking away with second place. Both results very good for both players. Both something to definitely not hang your head in shame or anything like that. And they both fought very, very well, going back and forth between the two. We will go into, all right, cool. We're flipping a coin. We're going to have the map vetoes and picks coming out of our players again. So I guess, I don't know. It kind of seems like Zan has been starting to figure Playa out a little bit. Do you think Playa does something like, he very consistently does kind of the same thing, and he is, to great effect for the most part, but do you think maybe he switches it up and does something very uncharacteristic of himself to see if he can kind of throw Zan off onto the wrong foot?
Yeah, I would love to see that. Both players have been pretty consistent in their builds. Playa probably more so in that his has been the one to dictate, right, every time what happens. And I think he feels pretty comfortable doing that. He likes the fact that means that he's then, right, he's building up and following the father of all Protoss, right? He's taking expansions and trying to defense them. And really our games have been coming down to whether or not Zan can, if he can snipe a Nexus, if he can get good probe kills, if he can drop an annoying mine, stuff like that, if he can delay tech, if he can pick off that proxy gateway earlier. So, really it's just opening up to, can Playa deny Zan from getting a good lead in his drops or in his multi-prong? And that's what's decided our games. And so, I don't know. I personally, the momentum's certainly in Zan's favor right now. I would love to see something weird out of Playa. He might just gather his composure and try to and try to just play good games and kind of stick to his game plan. But we'll see.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Playa has been doing, I guess, the same thing in pretty much every map. And you're right, he is trying to dictate the way of the game, and he's been able to do it a couple times. Specifically, the first game of that series on Vani. But he hasn't been able to really kind of control it since then. And Zan has shown us time and time again that he's a very, very mechanically sound player. He can really just kind of drop all over the place. He can pick Playa apart. And I don't want to say it's the build order, but Playa really needs to change something up so that he's either incredibly on top of stopping this drop play, or he's just forcing the engagement so hard that Zan is not able to get into this really comfortable, I'm just going to drop third base, main base, now I'm going to go to the natural base, just kind of slow Playa's advance down. And I don't know, like, is there something specifically that you'd like to see out of him, Sam? Like maybe a two base, just some crazy cheese? Or do you think that this will work? He just needs to kind of figure out how he's going to adapt it to Zan's play.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I would love to see a timing attack. I think a lot of the things that Zan has been doing, he's pretty dependent, right, on getting something done. But every single time, right, he has his the bulk of his supply early on is out on the map, right? He's not really got a lot other than that bunker at home. So I would love to see an early robo, personally, an early robo into a bust of some sort, either force a lift or something like that on an expansion. Of course, it's really map dependent.
Do you know what our first map is going to be?
We don't know yet. So we have Deadwing vetoed again out of Zan, and then Playa banned Secret Springs and Inferno, which is pretty common. Playa's banned Inferno pools.
I think probably every time. We haven't seen a lot of Inferno pools.
Yeah.
It's
super,
really good
super
for drops.
Terran favorite, I think.
Yeah, it's really, really good for drops. It's not as weird with Catalina's kind of up and down. Maybe your Colossi is suddenly inside of a bio ball and doesn't do any damage, but it still has a lot of drop potential, and there actually are. Oh, we hit the 4-hour limit again. That's so bizarre. And there actually are a few weird kind of high grounds that can possibly get exploited, or at least an accidental misrally of a Colossi or two could really be kind of unfortunate in Inferno pools. I don't disagree with it too much at all.
Apparently I need Skype Premium to make a group video call. I thought I already had... I don't even know anymore. When was that a thing? Or it used to be a thing. It no longer was.
It expires at some period.
Oh, I know.
I think.
I thought they made group... I don't even know. Maybe we won't have group video call. I don't know what happened. Panic. It's okay, though. You don't have to see
that
us
pretty,
too much.
though, is the real question.
But kind of. Yeah, I don't know. It's not coming back. That's weird that...
As long as people can see you, Kevin. That's all they need. They'll be calmed.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Anyway, the game's the important part. GG Skype. You got me. So, first map looks like we're playing Overgrowth. Then we will be going into Vani Research. Wait, is this the same beginning as it was last time? What's the next one again? What do we have? What do we have left? I don't even remember.
And then we're going to
Catalina,
right? Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. So, starting out on Overgrowth. Just like last game, we'll see, or just like the previous series, we'll see if the players decide to do similar builds again, or if, I just want Playa to like do the same proxy gateway thing, but then proxy like a robo and be like, what up? I did this.
I do I do that to kids all the time. I'm at a very different level.
The double proxy or what?
No, the proxy robo.
Oh, okay.
Into like an immortal bust.
No, I'm thinking Playa makes it look like he's been doing the same thing, and Zan's like, all right, same old, and then suddenly there's 2 immortals, or well, maybe just 1, and a 4-gate or something. I don't know exactly. I never played a TVP, and so I don't really know what the Protoss brings along with that. But so we've got Sam back on the group video call, and we've got Jackson's
I actually
icon.
just turned my camera off.
Yeah, not good enough to be honest. We're not the important part. The important part is getting to the
But
in-game
gosh
view.
darn, are we pretty?
Yeah, right. I mean, what else are the? What is else? Nah. Wow.
Well, Jackson, why else are the people watching, right? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
that's what I was going for. Man,
Ugh, it's
thank you.
Oh boy. Cool.
It's always
So
a good
we
sign
are.
going into a game.
Yep. Words. How do they work again? So here we are, loading on into Overgrowth. We'll see if Zan's fighting his way back. He managed to win that best of 5 with a 3-1 to bring us into the final of the finals of the grand finals.
Okay.
Most certainly the last series to be played for this tournament. And again, I'm going to switch it up. Spawning up in the top right, he has our red Protoss. He's playing from Missouri. He needs to take this to get first place. In fact, both players do, but let's see if he can maybe change up his play and show Zan what's up. It is Playa. That intro went on way too long. All right.
and hoping to give Playa another Midwest Cup second place. Spawning at the bottom left, we have Zan.
You know, pink's my favorite color, and like I don't say that jokingly. It's like actually my favorite color, especially this kind of like mellower pink. Like I really
Tell
don't
us
like
more
hot
about
pink.
that, Jackson.
Well, you see, I like red a lot, but not enough for it to be my favorite color. And green's cool, but again, not to be my favorite color. And, you know, while I'm saying this, the proxy gate's going down, so I'll continue with the fact that pink is the epitome of colors because it kind of takes this nice hue of red, but then has a lower saturation of this kind of like blue and white undertones. It's really nice, really good to look at. It's not very garish on your eyes. I guess when it gets hot pink, it's just too much red down to the blue. Yeah, it's really, really nice. It's almost the exact reason that I studied art history. It's just to see how much
because
pink
of
I can
pink. Oh boy.
Happy for you, Jackson.
I-
I've never felt so strongly about any color in my life.
Well, you should. Colors are great.
Oh,
Anyway.
Zan actually failing to scout right away the gateway in an almost too obvious a scouting path position.
True.
And there he finds it just as it finishes. Right away, Mr. SCV goes to work, but he remembers his friend Carl said, "Hey, I got
I died
killed that
last
way
time."
once. Yeah, be careful. Safety first."
It's interesting. We're really not seeing much changes from either player. They seem to be both very comfortable with what they're doing. Even when one of them loses, they're like, well, I guess I'm okay. I can keep moving with the same thing.
Sure.
Yeah, it's curious. I mean, but we have seen them continue to trade games,
Yeah. It's interesting
even
that,
though
like,
it's similar every time.
yeah,
right?
they both seem to know what the other one's going to do pretty well. We have seen a little bit of Colossus timing. That's kind of a bit of a contention. But they both relatively have each other figured out and are still relatively trading pretty well. It's interesting. It's actually really kind of fun to see.
So
My
it just
favorite thing-
begs the question, right? Like every competition, what is going to happen?
Yeah, well, my favorite thing is these games are going really, really long. A couple of them have been kind of fast, but they're long macro games. No one is being really cheesy. No one's kind of screwing with it. It's good to watch. It's probably not as fun to play as many in a row, but it's fun. You can see both of them really kind of show their multitasking macro skills, their mechanical skills. It's not my build order wins, so you should leave. Pretty fast factory coming out of Zan, though. We have seen this a couple times, and actually, I think like I was mentioning earlier, I wanted to see a reactor, and he does have a reactor this time, and I really, really enjoy that decision. Probably going to have a starport right after it as well. I like it a lot. I'm not sure I like it as much on this map. It's not really the best early game drop. I think we saw it at Va'ani. Is the last time we saw it, which is really good for dropping. Unfortunately for Zan, Playa was able to shut it down pretty easily. So we're going to have to see where he does go from this point. Immediately going for some Hellions. Also an interesting choice. Again, probably looking for kind of like an elevator drop play.
Sure, absolutely. And actually, with the lack of sentries, I am off mute, right? Yeah, with the lack of
Yes, you are.
sentries, that we've seen from Playa throughout, it can be really difficult, right, to hold that ramp unless you hold position and you do it at the right time. You do it early enough. There's the potential to just run those Hellions up into the main and then push the front.
Yeah. We're going to have a long
Protons.
time until there's really anything in the way of an army for Play. He does have a photon overcharge, I believe. But the only gateway he has is actually only about a third done. DTs are a bit away. They probably should be finishing just about the time this attack comes. There are a couple cannons, but it's an interesting kind of awkward defense that he's kind of looking for. There's not very much of anything, honestly.
Yeah, so we're going to go bio drop into the back, and then Hellions into the natural. Really, really curious.
Yeah,
Really interesting play.
It's a curious decision. I would have liked to have actually seen the opposite. Hellions can kind of run around a lot more. There's a lot more space in the main. That being said, he might want to force the photon overcharge as far away from his Hellions as possible. Nice placement on the Stalker, though. Immediately going to pick this up.
Yeah, and maybe this causes Playa to pull a photon overcharge in the main instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's
opens
that's
up the
what I was
opportunity
thinking.
for those. Doesn't manage to split the probes early enough. A lot of probes going down. 10 probes already.
Yeah, really nice aggression early on. He saves the meta back. For now, the Stalker does get it. But really nice aggression. I really do like the choice of the main base, or attacking the main base. I didn't think about it earlier on, but forcing this photon overcharge has allowed him to do a lot more damage than he probably should have been able to.
Right, and we haven't seen Playa be conservative with his photon overcharge, like, hey, what if this happens? Usually he just makes it, knowing that it's going to make his defense more efficient. And in this case, right, he just gets caught having a really low gateway supply. The cannons being helpful, but, it's difficult to split probes and put them in good positions where you're forcing the Hellions to stay in range. So, really good push out of there. That's very, very clever, a good variation out of Zan.
Nice timing on the turret, but the DT will be able to get around. Might be able to force a scan. Does get one. And it's interesting, he knows Zan knows exactly what's coming, and is trying to adapt himself. And I think he's adapting very, very well, especially with that drop. That did way more damage early on than really we've seen from either player very much. I believe Playa did do some damage early on in the second game. Actually, a DT drop to the left side of the main going to be... It should be able to be cleaned up, but it's going to need some pretty fast reaction from Zan. Most of his army is going to be caught in the middle of the map.
Yeah, I mean, once again, though, it's a few more kills out of a DT. Pulls the army back. See, right away. Pulls his army back. That was pushing out across the map. Picks up 6 kills with the DT.
Yeah, really not that bad. Gonna get away with both DT and Warp Prism this time. I believe on Vani he lost most of the DTs.
Oh, he's almost begging a scan here.
Yeah, I think he's actually trying to force another scan. It's going to really make that 6 worker loss even more worthwhile. And actually, he gets the DT into the Warp Prism before it's killed. Very, very nice. He hasn't lost really anything. Forces 2 scans and 6 worker kills. That's really, really nice for 1 DT.
If he does that another time, he will get another 7 worker kills and 2 scans.
Yeah, really, really like to see how this what did a lot of damage for him on Vani Research in the first game of the last series. Kind of big drop coming out from Zan, but the Phoenix is actually just going to script Phoenixes really, really well. Really, really like this play out of Playa. I think he's deciding that he wants to do the same thing, but he's going to mix it up. He might actually get this third base canceled really, really quickly, though.
Yeah, the Marauder's just doing too much damage to the buildings. So he's got to cancel that. Not the end of the world. It did just start, but
yeah, it's
certainly
not
not
the biggest
ideal.
loss. Never want to lose 100 minerals, but it's not bad. Forces out an overcharge, actually. You're right. He's really, really just, I need to overcharge. Not going to worry about it. I think that one was a little bit too preemptive. But that being said, the attack didn't happen. He didn't lose anything. He got his third delayed, and that's about it.
Right, the argument could be made that if your overcharge isn't going to take at least one shot, you don't really need to use it yet, but not bad play. So another drop going into the main here. There are 3 Phoenix local. The ground army is pretty far away. There is another overcharge, but we'll see what kind of damage Zan can get done here. His choices of what damage to get done with the units he has in these drops is really what's set him ahead in the series. So I have full faith.
He takes out the Stargate. I like that choice. It's only going to be a handful of Phoenixes for a while. He might actually be able to get the Robo Bay, which is going to be a huge pickup. Only one Colossus. Oh, very nice defense from Playa. Saves the Robo Bay. It would have been a really nice pickup for Zan. Going to have plenty of Colossi, although Extreme Thermal Lance has not started yet. But that Stargate has to be remade. It's going to be kind of annoying to have the smaller Phoenix count that he's been wanting. We've seen him play a lot of Phoenix in this matchup.
Absolutely. We have a big push streaming along. Playa trying to take the gold. Pretty ambitious. He should cancel it right away.
Ooh, doesn't
Zan
cancel
actually
it.
able to kill it. Yep, 300 more minerals going down for nothing.
There is a Colossi here. Should scare Zan away for the time being. But yeah, it was a very preemptive 4th base. A little bit curious about that decision.
I mean, if you're able to cancel it, right? You're sort of betting on like, hey, I'd bet 100 minerals, and 400 that I can't spend for a while. That maybe Zan just won't push out across the map, other than these little poking drops for a little while, And maybe if you get it finished, you can fortify it.
Sure.
It's sort of hard to say. I mean, being that far forward on the map towards your opponent, maybe that means that he thinks that he's scary enough as a counterattack potential that his opponent doesn't try to drop the main or something like that. I'm not really sure. It is a curious choice, I agree.
Thermalance started, finally gonna have a 3rd Colossi. Excuse me, got some stuck in, got like a bubble stuck. Yeah, it was an interesting choice. Thermalance is gonna take some time. While I'm saying that, another DT does go into the main, going to be cleaned up really fast this time, though. Zan is much more on top of these DTs this game.
But regardless of the damage that Playa is able to get done, what that does allow him to do, right, he's establishing a 4th, and that Warp Prism is keeping the army at home, right? The army of Zan right now, he's got a huge army lead.
Yeah,
and his army is really scary, so he really wants to be killing Colossus and winning the game right now, but instead he's back in his main. And just now trickling out the Warp Prism, right, getting to spot the army pushing out, another stim coming out.
But, so we have a Templar Archives. Is the first time we've had High Templar and Storm this game?
Yes.
Interesting.
So, I mean, this game, but I mean, in their previous series, right? Or I should say 2 previous series. Earlier in the winners bracket when they played, we did see Playa very late in the game get Storms out. He does have 4 Colossus right now, so his army is potentially, right, if he takes the right fight, he can absolutely hold. He can absolutely turn in and win a big fight. But he sort of needs Storm to be able to guarantee that, right?
Yeah,
so right now, Ghosts are coming out, so it's not like he's ahead on the tech curve, but he needs those Storms, right, to make up for EMPs, to make up for the extra damage there. But
yeah, it looks like some Ghosts do come out. Really nice timing response. We haven't seen any Storms like you mentioned, but Zan's pretty on top of the fact that Storms could be here pretty soon. EMPs just in general are, of course, really, really nice in TVP mid and late game. But really nice decision making from Zan all around. Looks like Playa is able to pretty comfortably
Doom
get
drop going to the main.
phase.
We'll see if Playa recalls right away. No, he decides to walk. There's not a ton here other than tech, right, that he needs to save.
Yeah.
Not like this base is a huge source of income, but he does lose the tech, right? And it does mean that he's pulled away from being able to defend. How much damage he can do to this drop as it's leaving is a big decider of how effective this was for both players.
Yeah, a couple
Gets
medevacs.
1, 2, maybe a third medevac.
Does get 3 medevacs. It's actually a pretty nice pickup. There's only 4 on the field at the moment. 2 of them, of course, have pretty low energy. The Robo facility did go down, but with a transition to Storm, I'm not sure that that's the biggest loss. He does have 4 Colossi at the moment, so he probably can hang out for a while until he gets his Robo facility back up.
Right. In the end, that's not a great trade for our Terran hero.
Yeah.
I mean, he's now just barely ahead in supply. He's 20 instead of 40 ahead in army supply, and he lost a lot of medevacs, and that's the big thing, is they just traded gateway units. We still have 4 Colossus out. We did delay Colossus production. You might have argued with as low as the robotics bay is, Playa maybe should have built a robotics bay ahead of time anyway. But I mean, we also have the medevac count really low.
Yeah, well, there was 2 more medevacs on the left side of the map going for the 4th base, and they both got killed. And he is.
Let's see how our storms and EMPs come down. Storm's really late in this fight. The Viking's getting a lot of good damage done. We're already down to 2 Colossus. He does keep his 3rd alive.
Yeah, 1 Colossus.
The Terran army doing a good job of not fully engaging here, right? Because Playa's got the straight up stronger army right now out on the field. Good warp in of those zealots to try to catch some of those marauders.
Yeah, it was an interesting decision that for Zan to go north. 1 almost full medevac goes down. That's only a few marauders in the main base. It'll be pretty easily cleaned up, and that actually should be the last medevac.
Yeah, and for the first time since about minute 1, we have an army supply that's just about comparable. I was about to say ahead, but Zan just pulled ahead in his production.
Yeah, and Playa is starting to get his gold base up and running. He's been a full base ahead of Zan since about the 3rd base timing. He's starting to take not a massive, but somewhat of a lead in this game. It's going to really come down to the fights again. Zan didn't take the best of fights in the last one. He did cut the Colossi count down quite a bit, which did help. And you're right, the storms were a little bit late, but a few nice storms or just a bit of a miss micro from the bio could really give Playa a bit of an unnecessary advantage.
So right now, though, state of the game, a way more scary army for Playa right now. He's got the better economy as of right now. Zan's just established his 4th right here, and that's what's getting pressured. Some good storms. His High Templar are clumped, right? Really scary situation. When his army is kind of streaming across the map, but if he can get good storms before the EMPs and take an okay fight here, he has all these Archons that are so meaty. He's got the Colossus and Immortals, which should do some good damage. But he's in a pretty bad position as far as engagements go.
Colossi goes down pretty fast.
Still
a lot
the
of the High
scary army.
Templars went down. The Archons are, you're right, very, very scary. And that's not really the highest health marine or bioforce, and actually a pretty big drop goes out, although there was an immediate
Yeah, so the recall, I almost
Recall.
would have liked to see him push in there. He doesn't have the Colossus count that he really cares about, that Viking count. He doesn't have any storms behind it, but I think that Playa there has the stronger army that he could have broken that 3rd. Of course, right, that's a high-risk play, but especially with the timing of this drop coming from Zan going up to the 4th of Playa, it would have played out pretty nicely. But we'll see how Playa is able to handle this. It goes right back to who can be more efficient on these multi-prongs.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, Playa is quite a bit more situated to defend this. We'll have to see how much damage gets done. A couple of probes do go down, but it looks like the Nexus will be completely fine, and several more of the medevacs go down. Although the production of medevacs has restarted, and he's got a quite big number at this point. But not the best retaliation drop. Sorry, a good amount of probes are killed, but not the biggest loss. The worker deficit is actually still extremely in Playa's favor.
Okay. Yeah, so this is Playa's game to lose at this point. He's got the scarier army. There's a good medevac count, like you said, up again once more, but we really don't have the bio count that you need there. So it looks like Zan, realizing the situation he's in, he's going to go ahead and pull some of the boys, not all of the boys this game, and is going to go ahead and push across. Playa checking once again for a 4th. Once he realizes that isn't there, he'll probably push in on the 4th. But we'll see. He may choose to recall here. Though he might not have enough energy. Oh, he's just shy on a recall. I think it's a great choice to push in here. And myself, I would go and kill the production of the Terran. I think he has enough money banked, and he's got a better situation in general.
Yeah, he might have to just simply go for it. You're right, he has a bunch of money. He's going to be recreating his Nexi. We're just going to have to see. It probably is going to come down to a base trade. We're going to have to see who has more stuff where. Playa's been...
Kill the orbitals and warp in DTs, right?
Mm-hmm. Playa's been really, really intelligent about placing pylons and things everywhere across the map on every single game. And it's really just going to come down to who can kill a lot of the buildings get lifted for Zan.
Oh, good storms coming down in the main of Playa. Doing just a little bit of damage with what he has there.
But that is just a bunch of structures left for Playa. The floating buildings might be a little bit annoying for a while. But I'm not exactly sure. It might actually come down to a bit of an engagement between the two of them.
Right, so if Playa here can shut down the rest of the economy, right, for Zan, he can safely go back to protect one of his bases and take a fight there. Zan needs to win the fight at this point.
Yeah, it looks like the remaining...
We'll see Zan doing a good job lifting his buildings, though, to lengthen the process of Playa being able to clean this up, so he might, get to one more base before because Playa doesn't want to recall to the base that he's warped in at, or that he's fighting at.
Yeah. Trying to see how many orbitals are left. I think that might actually have been... No, there's one orbital being built, actually, in the main base of Playa. I like that. Kind of scary.
And that screams base trade, though, because that's the main, so you don't get revealed. That's not the command center saying, I want to rebuild. So Playa still has a little bit of the option to do that. Of course, if he takes a bad fight right now, he still loses the game.
His army is a little bit split up, but doesn't look like Zan's going in.
He's got to avoid clumping his High Templar here. He needs good storms. He's got to split those High Templar. He doesn't have the Colossus count to win this fight by itself. One good storm coming down.
Yeah.
Contact.
How many Colossi? There's one Colossi. Right. Several Vikings, though. Need to see how the storms do.
All of the High Templar get EMP.
Yeah, that was a really, really nice EMP. Zan might have just enough. Ooh.
No production.
Oh, the DTs.
The DTs are going to turn the game. There's one orbital in production. GG's called by Zan. Picks up game number 1. The
ending DTs really, really turned that there. Zan almost had it until the last second. No orbitals. My camera's probably off. Yeah, really, really intense game. Playa did have an advantage, but Zan played that out really, really well there in the end and just didn't have the last bit he needed.
Certainly, that was
good old-fashioned nail biter.
Yeah, that was a crazy little bit of a base trade going on there. Well, base race more so, not really a... I don't know, is there a difference?
The experts say not at all.
Where's the panel of judges? Maybe
judges say
we didn't
bushy
invite,
wigs,
did
white
not,
wigs.
We didn't invite the judges to this one, did we?
No, I guess we'll have to
maybe
wait
next
that one.
time. No, but that was pretty smartly done by Playa too. I mean, he didn't panic and be like, "Oh, I got to recall early. I need to," he goes, "Okay, I've got a whole lot of structures to kill off," and so and you could see it certainly took Zan a whole lot longer to actually get through Playa's base, and even just like the little reinforcements that Playa was able to add on, a Colossus here and there, I don't know if he had too many like random High Templars hanging out, but definitely a DT or two. You're slowing it down with some scans, and yeah, the Playa's favorite unit has to be the DT because I think he's found every like useful
every
application
use,
of having them. I mean, if you play every game with the Dark Shrine, you probably find out a lot of good ways to use DTs.
Oh my goodness, they're good in base trades.
Really want to see him play like a PvZ or PvP. to see if this is just like
Oh, he does
the
this.
Playa build.
He does it in PvP.
He does it in everything.
Yeah,
I
every
think.
matchup.
He always has.
Wow, I mean, if you're comfortable,
Yeah.
might as well go with it.
Yeah, he does. It's. I mean, he might. I'm sure he has variations on it all. I'm not quite smart enough to notice him super well. But he definitely has an early Dark Shrine and an early Stargate, and he really doesn't favor heavy gateway armies, especially like Sam has said, pretty often. Not a whole lot of stalkers.
Yeah.
Which
And stalkers are essentially they're big dumb spiders. So I don't blame him for that, because there's nothing that feels worse than having an equal supply army, having a bunch of stalkers, and watching them die. Because that's what happens when you have 20, 30 stalkers in a big fight, like some of those that they had. It's like it just you get to pick off Vikings or something like that, and that's fun. But then his army is still there at the end of the fight.
I saw a really weird map of WCS yesterday. I don't know if you guys caught it. It was a Puck versus Guitar Cheese. It was a PVZ.
Oh yeah.
And Puck won with like 50 stalkers and nothing else.
Puck and Huck both, the two Ucks, are like horrible strategists. I think all the time they're way better than I am, right? And they're probably much smarter than me. But all the time they get these. Well, especially Huck. Huck rarely builds anything that's not out of a gateway. But Puck he warps in stalkers all the time, and he just makes great use out of them. And it's like he makes up for having bad units by being good.
Yeah,
that's what I think all the time.
Versus strategy sometimes.
That's right.
Sure.
So, well, that means that we must be spawning onto Vani research. I'm assuming that the camera is in the right place, because in the bottom of the map, he won the first series, but he lost the first game in the second series. He's down 0-1 in this best of 3, playing for Team Ascension in the final series. The second, possibly the final map of the whole tournament, is the Pink Terran. His name is Zon. I went high again.
Jackson, we're excited every time. So spawning at the top of the map, hoping to take home a first place rather than another second in Midwest Cup number 4, up 1-0. Red Protoss Playa.
Yes, he is.
We can only imagine.
Yeah, well, I mean, he did really well on this map in the last series. By actually doing essentially what he did in the last game. He had some really good DTs, and then really just shut down the drops. Zan did have some better drops last game than in the first time they played on Vani. That being said, he didn't get as much damage as he probably really wanted to, and it looks like he's not even going to worry about the gateway this time. Might be kind of comfortable dealing with it, having seen it so many times by now.
He's
so this
had
time
some
he's
practice
opting for the
against
SCV Scout. Instead of, trying to make do with the Reaper, kind of holding this off, getting the Scout in. It does allow him to get an earlier Scout. I think it's almost curious that he was scouting for the gateway, because we've seen now 9 games between the two.
Base is under attack.
And that gateway has been proxied every time, so you'd almost assume, it's right out there.
Yeah,
right, and he started the bunker almost blind.
It's an interesting choice. He will be able to push it back. He's been able to do that almost every single time. And, I'm just so intrigued by this build. Nice eBay block on the natural. That will delay the expansion pretty long. And, I really want to see, like you were saying earlier, just a fast robo, just like bust down the door, some crazy Protoss build. But that's not what we're seeing. Another fast reactor from Zon. He might actually be going for the same Hellion build. He did a lot of damage early on with it last time. Don't think there's any reason that he wouldn't think he can, although there's not a lot of gas being mined. So you could just want to get a bit of a more defensive reactor, although that might sound kind of weird. But I think he did a lot of damage last game early on. He might not be so focused on it this time. Natural base does go down in the third base. And, yeah, it just really interesting. Getting a little bit too much more damage from the Reaper than I think I would have liked to have seen, but nothing too terrible. My compatriots seem to be,